is immersion mining worth it? Today we're going to break that down. Specifically, we're going to be looking at this on a smaller scale, right? There's numerous plug and play immersion mining solutions, and immersion mining is basically liquid cooling your mining rigs, right? You want to earn passive income with a Bitcoin miner or maybe a Caspa miner and so forth, right? But maybe because of the noise, you're interested in that. We're going to contrast it with obviously air-cooled mining throughout this video. Hey, I'm Vosk, freaking in love with mining. We've had the incredible opportunity to test all small-scale immersion mining options that I am aware of, and several bigger immersion scale solutions, and been inside numerous immersion mining farms and have researched the full-scale industrial solutions there as well. I've spent a lot of time, a lot of money on this stuff. It's very intriguing, and to be frank, immersion mining is the future of not only mining but data centers in general, whether that's going to be liquid cooling or true immersion mining in oil. So let me hit you with a crash course on why you want to do immersion mining. It's very quiet, if not dang near silent, especially on a small scale. These little dry coolers are quiet. They're quiet. Okay, these systems are small. They're easy to deploy. I would have absolutely done immersion mining in my previous deployments if I, one, understood it, two, these small scale solutions were available, and three, maybe a combination of if I had known about them and found them and deployed it, whatever. The point is, I would have been immersion mining many years ago had I realized it was so awesome and or the solutions were there. The first small miner we deployed was actually the Bixbit 2 to 3 miner cell. So you could put 2 to 3 miners in it, and it's not a particularly small unit, but it's on the smaller side and it's built for a lower amount of miners. So it's still absolutely in that category. Then we deployed the fog hashing C2 and the DCX BitPod. So let's talk about the DCX BitPod. The DCX BitPod is a dual loop system like the Bixbit cell. Those are both dual loop systems. I'll explain what that is here in a second. But the BitPod is very small. It's 2 amp miners or potentially 4 watts miners, which that's actually the really impressive density on that unit, what makes that thing stand out, but it's a small unit. Then you have the fog hashing C2, which is absolutely adorable because it's truly like a little mini version of their bigger solutions. What makes the C2 really interesting, especially for a small scale deployment, is it uses a single loop system. Okay, that means that it runs the immersion fluid, this basically petroleum based oil, through the dry cooler, which is essentially like a radiator. Think of like your car, and what does the cooling on your car? It's the radiator and the associated fans there, or simply your airflow when moving, driving. By being a single loop system, there's only immersion fluid, so you just run 2 pipes and then it goes around.
Immersion mining is super cool, and it's come a long way, but it does require work to set up and maintain, and it's kind of messy. Another alternative to immersion is miner hosting. Ever since the halving, low-cost electric has been crucial, and hosting is becoming a more popular alternative for at-home miners. Check out Revolution Mining. They offer hosting options for Bitcoin and Caspa miners within the US. They have a special bundle sale right now where users can buy 3 S21s, KS5 Pros, or KS3Ms at discounted rates. To learn more about Revolution Mining, check out our link in the video description below and be sure to use code VoskCoin to save. Thank you to Revo for sponsoring this video.
Dual loop has benefits and drawbacks. Dual loop basically means all the immersion fluid stays in the container and cycles through the container, and then the second loop is actually coolant, like literally like a blend of water and radiator fluid. The coolant mixture runs through the dry cooler, and then that runs against the oil on the side and cools the oil. Dual loop system makes reusing that heat easier, but it's easily double the work, if not more, during the installation process. And but if there's any leak or anything like that, dealing with water / coolant is a lot better to deal with than immersion oil, which would be like spilling car oil wherever you are. It's not quite as bad as car oil, but you get the point. It's still oil based. It's literally oil. So that's the crash course on the little ones, right? And let's kind of run through why would we be immersion mining, and then we'll break down these models a little bit more. But why would we be immersion mining, right? It's quiet. It decreases the footprint. It's clean. I don't think you understand how important clean can be for some people in some areas. Looking back, I see so many mining solutions that were so weird and up and just janky that would have been perfectly suited for immersion mining, right? Put this thing in your basement, run the pipes out the side. Done. Sit the freaking dry cooler radiator in your backyard. If you have an HOA, don't worry about it. If you have an HOA and you've got, 6 miners screaming in your basement, in your backyard, maybe a window open, you have a small property neighbor nearby, and they're just hearing, wah! Guess what, homie? You might be getting an HOA ticket visit. They're not going to be bothered by a dry cooler. They're not even going to understand what it is. And in all seriousness, if I was mining in a neighborhood with immersion, I would put a sticker on my dry cooler that said Mitsubishi, Daikin, Train, whatever HVAC manufacturer you want. Blend in, dude. Blend in. There's no benefit for them knowing that you're mining. They're gonna think you're rich, an idiot, a scammer, or maybe they'll become your new best friend because they think it's cool and they're into it too, right? That's the outlier though. So you're more than likely to just be judged and potentially targeted than receiving a bunch of praise. But it's kind of getting better with time. But when people see a Bitcoin that's so expensive, they'll assume that you just happen to have a bunch of Bitcoin, whether you do or not. And then, you're either rich and maybe a soft target or whatever. But a bit of an aside. Something to think about, though, because security risks like that are absolutely very real. So here's perfect neighborhood scenario. Let me just, bust this out real quick, right? So you throw solar on your house, you got some excess solar, and you're like, okay, well, instead of just basically banking this and I'll never use it with the power company, or they buy it back on the cheap because I signed a crappy agreement where they're like buying it for 2 cents and then they're over here selling it for 18 cents, making bank off my dumb ass. I deploy a couple miners, I use up that excess, and I'm doing it efficiently and quietly with an immersion system in my basement, or maybe in my garage, or in my shed. It's the perfect solution for that. The downside of immersion, right? Other than the upside of quiet, pretty small, clean, right? And I say clean, let me explain that. Clean because you don't have airflow. You're not using ambient air for cooling. Right? So you're not getting a bunch of dust and pollen and whatever you're dealing with. You don't have to work with filter mediums and so forth. And if you're, say, not doing that cooling, you're just letting them run like in your basement, you're having so much parasitic loss by making your HVAC system pick up that cooling in the summer. Granted, you can benefit with that passive heat, right? In the winter. In Virginia, you run your AC more than you run your heater. Heating systems rarely break. It's the AC that's normally breaking. Generally speaking, immersion mining allows for enhanced cooling capabilities, which means that you can overclock miners. You can push them further. You can increase your density. This may not be the best decision for efficiency. It depends on a case-by-case, miner-by-miner basis, right? So that's like the general situation we're dealing with, right? But what is the downside of immersion mining? Well, you got dirty miners, all right? They're in this oil. It's kind of gross. A little bit harder to resell. It can degrade some of the components or make them hard and brittle over time. Fine if you're leaving them in immersion, not fine if you want to remove them and put them on air cooled and you panic sell and you eject the hardware on eBay or something. They can absolutely be cleaned. We posted a video last week about cleaning, but the point is, right, that you have to clean them if you remove them. I consider immersion mining a permanent engagement. If I dunk a miner, I'm never going to sell it. It's not worth it to me. It's in there until it's not worth it for me to run, and then I'm pulling it out and it's just going to sit over there for parts. Pretty much it. Or if somehow I find spare time, then maybe I'll clean it up and try to sell it. But that's me personally. You may have more time. I have like no time. So I have to make those decisions and be okay and come to terms with those things, because if you don't, then you can just constantly be eaten up by the stress of like, God, I have to do this and I have to do that, and I'm failing over here. I'm not being a good friend. Am I failing as a spouse? Am I a good dad? Right? Whatever it is. Am I doing a good job at my work? Well, insert anything that just becomes a result of you being overburdened. So there's that. But here's the big negative, and to be frank, the obvious one. There's a cost. Depending on your immersion mining solution, you're gonna spend about $1,000, maybe a bit more on a smaller scale, like a 2 miner scale deployment, to deploy miners. If you deploy a system that has 6+ miners, the price is normally around like $1,000 per miner to deploy them. Understand that there's a cost to deploy air-cooled, and there's more labor and there's more cost consistently long-term with those. The immersion systems generally are very energy efficient, which results in less electric spend day to day, right? You're running an exhaust fan hard, energy hog. Most of these immersion systems are variable speed. They will adjust and basically lower your day-to-day cost because they're going to spend as much as they need to keep the equipment cool. Now, I'll drop links to everything I'm talking about, right, to the Bixbit system and the DCX system and also the fog hashing system. We do have the best coupon code. We campaigned with them to get that coupon code, and you also support the channel if you use our link to buy a fog hashing system. The fog hashing systems I've been really impressed with. It's the best solution for a small scale miner because it's single loop. It's so easy to deploy. You literally punch 2 holes in the wall, 1 pipe out, 1 pipe in, done. It's half the piping, it's half the work, if not much more than less than half, right, of the work compared to competitor systems. I'm not throwing shade or anything on the competitor systems either. They are good solutions. But if you want the easiest install and great efficiency, the fans are variable, the direct drive components and this stuff, it's impressive. It's very good engineering. They're the newest systems out as well, and their design reflects that. So very happy with those. That's what I recommend on that scale, right? And if you wanted to go a bit beyond that, all 3 of these companies have bigger solutions, right? There's the fog hashing C6, supersize me, bro, right? There's the DCX 8 miner unit. It's the same essential design and components, but for 8 miners. There's also the Bixbit 6 cell, which you can deploy 6 miners with. The downside with the Bixbit systems is their dry cooler is not as easy and user-friendly to deploy. You need to build some kind of stand to it or, erect it to a wall, whereas the DCX and fog hashing dry coolers sit there on the ground, much easier to deploy and deal with. DCX has these nice little rubber feet. They're more of like an asphalt rubber type feet that they come with. You can rig up whatever you want with the fog hashing. I just throw them on 6x6s as like little feet. Done. Lag bolts, baby. If you need to clean these things up, WD-40, they got this dielectric cleaner that is a good solution and cheap, and you get it, probably tomorrow, delivered from Amazon. So that's a quick tip on, if you need to clean these up or clean up things, you spilled some oil in certain places. If you need to get the fluid out, right, the fog hashing units come with these little aquarium pumps that allow you to pump the fluid out. Keep your immersion jug containers that you get with these systems. If you ever need to move the system or you sell the system, you need to move the fluid or drain the fluid for whatever reason, it's good to have these tubs just already there. And you will need to buy some sort of pump, like say an aquarium pump if you're using like the DCX or Bixbit. And again, the fog hashing units come with these just perfectly suited little cheap pumps that will move the fluid out. The other nifty thing about those units is that they come with these handles that make it easy to pull the miners in and out. If you're worried about the electrical aspect, don't be. I mean, you pretty much just need a plug for the dry cooler to run into. You'll be powered by, and then you need to run a couple circuits to power your mining rigs. I cover all that stuff in detail in our how to set up an ASIC miner like full guide, and then there's also just that's broken off into a different piece with an electrical guide for mining. But it's very easy, it's very simple, and depending on what miners you want to do and deploy, you may be able to reuse existing circuits, but not normally recommended. Don't let that intimidate you though. Don't let that be the reason why you don't do this stuff. I assure you, even if you're not a DIY guy, like doing projects like this, anyone with no skills can accomplish this with some pretty cheap tools. When we installed the little fog hashing unit, I bought the little like $200 Ryobi tool starter kit. I'm a Milwaukee guy, but I bought that for a specific reason, to show you with just basic, cheap, not even brushless tools. You can easily deploy these things. You don't need the nicest gear. You just need some gear, right? Cutting a hole in the wall is literally just the result of a drill and a hole saw. Is one obvious solution, right? An impact driver is in there, a sawzall if you need to cut an air vent or something, or whatever else. If you need to cut the drywall, it has a multi-tool that you can just basically vibrate your cut right there, as well as a circular saw to cut the feet and get the dry cooler set up there. So very easy. Don't let lack of skills, tools, or experience stop you from doing whatever you want to do in life, but especially, for example, deploying this. What I wish I knew before getting into this was really just that the install, it's not that bad. It seems kind of overwhelming and daunting, but especially if you do like the single loop system, it's easy. I mean, there's only a couple connections. There's not many nuances. As you go up in the difficulty and the different installs, it can become much more intense. The Bixbit plumbing was challenging for me. I've never done plumbing projects, and I definitely felt it, and it showed there. But it was quite an experience, something I'll never forget. It challenged me, and I learned a lot. And that system does work now. It works well. It's very efficient, but it was a very laborsome install. And that's one of the reasons why we've documented all of the installs of these units here on the channel, so that you can go check them out and see which one is kind of up your speed. Some people like the challenge. They want it to be more involved. If there's a better performance there potentially at the end, others definitely don't. So yeah. Ultimately, it really just depends on your goals. If you want to drop a shed, cut some holes in it for intake, cut some holes for exhaust, it's still a great solution, for just simple air cooling. But I think that immersion mining decentralizes mining because it allows you to mine effectively and efficiently and quietly in so many places that were previously not possible. And that is why I'm such a fan. I think it's so impressive. I'm such a proponent of it because it's truly changing the mining game. Mining is not just about earning passive income and your ROI and getting rich or whatever. It's about decentralizing these networks. It's about making these networks anti-fragile. It's about, the fact that there will be Bitcoin miners and Caspa miners and whatever other miners in every neighborhood, ideally, potentially, contributing, participating, being rewarded with these coins. Proof of work is incredible, and the most authentic, genuine distribution and a fair way to distribute coins for new, novel networks and blockchains. Immersion mining may not be for everyone, but it may be for you. And I hope that this video helped you make a decision, whether it's, gotcha. What are you doing? Yeah, I get it. You want to leave. You don't have to just friggin' jump off the screen. All right. I hope you liked the video. You ruined up my closing flow. Sup, Vosk, YouTube. Goodbye. Whoa. See you later. You thought I forgot. 10 seconds of tails. We run it on every video. She's our CIO. That's not information. That's immersion officer. Come on.